So welcome to our July 11th meeting of the High Desert Branch of the California Writers Club. As you can tell, this is another Zoom meeting, and we will eventually get back, hopefully face to face. That's what we'd really like to be able to do, but it's a virtual meeting. And so appreciate you tuning in. I think this is going to be a very constructive and interesting meeting. It is time, and as I look off to the side, excuse me, but it is better than me going like this, I think. Is that better? Or is that what better? Um, so I can't hear you anyway, so never mind. Don't answer any questions I might ask. Um, so it's time to renew our dues. We sent out a general survey recently. We wanted to just know how the club was holding together. And we were happy to report as a board that we're pretty content. We're pretty happy as a club. And I was happy to be reading that. And so people are renewing. Jenny can testify to that later on, but people are renewing, and this is what we were hoping would happen because we still have a lot of good constructive work to do. So the dues are $45 for renewal, and that is due by September 30th. So all of that is good. Student renewal, that means 23 years of age or under, is only $10. So that's a good deal. Want to welcome for the first meeting of this type, Tom Foley, who is here. He's got the beard and waving the hand in the air. And Tom is in a critique group already and enjoying the castigation that comes from being in a critique group and the improvement to writing and so forth. So this is good. And I also want to just put out a call to our most recent member. Tom is a new member, but our most recent member is James Johnson. And he's just been a member a matter of days. He is a grant writer for the San Bernardino school district. And I'm going to give you his email address. It's available now on the MRMS, but I know some of you don't know how to get in there. So I'm going to give you his email address so that you can give him a shout and welcome him to the club. It's easy to remember, but it's James, his first name. And then it's his zip code, 92307 @gmail.com. So James 92307 @gmail.com. Always nice to get a little welcoming email from his new friends. And I know that once we're back to face-to-face meetings, all of our new members will make new friends and value that. So we have a current survey that is out, and the board decided that with this, what's the word? Always forget the word. The word where we're not face-to-face, virtual meeting. All right, with the virtual meetings, we can afford to have an extra meeting per month. And we'd like to know what our members would like to learn about. You know, it could be story structure, it could be character development, something about the craft of writing, any topic at all that would be helpful. We'd like to know that because we could schedule a rather prominent person to come and not to come, but to stay where they are and give us a virtual meeting. And that could be very useful. And we can offer a whole lot more value in what we can learn because it's like doubling the time that we would be together for a topic like that. So let us know what you would like to learn about. And we have an expert idea man here in Bob Isbell, who is very good at getting people committed to come in and give us some information that they have that we would all benefit from. So let us know what you'd like to learn about. As you probably know, HDCWC has sponsored a statewide anthology, and the deadline has come and gone. And so we are past the deadline. We have received 26 submissions for this anthology about a pandemic. And the title to the anthology will be Survival: Tales of Pandemic. And I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be great to read this. It was open to all 22 branches, and we had, in addition to our 7 or 8 other branches that participated, 22 different authors. And so all of this was good. Jenny is in charge, of course, of getting it into print form. Mary DeSantis put together an incredible cover, there it is, for this anthology. I think it's really attractive. And we're going to have 26 submissions in here that will comprise this anthology. And so this will be ready about November, in time for buying for Christmas, as we usually do with our anthologies. And the top 3 winners will be able to take their winnings and choose their favorite charity and make a donation to that. So hopefully that will be of constructive help. And so that's going very well. I think once this is printed, we're all going to be saying, wow, look at that book. One of the most interesting anthologies we have ever done, really. So today we have what we call open mic, and we have 10 readers, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And so we don't want to be stilted in formality here, but we do want to be orderly, of course. So I'm going to call the reader in sequence as according to your agenda. And we're going to start with Anita Holmes. When the reading is finished, we want to be informal enough that if you have a question for the reader, or if you have a comment, we certainly can open up to that. And that'll be very good. And then when we're finished with that, I will call the next reader. And all of this is going to be handled like that. So it'll be a nice exchange. We'll know a little bit more about what the other person is writing. And when we get done with that, I'm going to open it up to any of our writers that are here to be able to announce any projects that they may be working on that will be coming up. And so it'll be a very interesting exchange, and I'm glad you're all here to participate in that. So we're going to start with Anita Holmes. Anita, are you ready?
Well, I thought I was, except lo and behold, with all these many people here, it turns out when I share my screen, I can't tap on starting my program. We'll try this again.
That is normal.
Challenge. That's a challenge. We'll get it. We'll get it. Oh golly. Let's see if I can
go up to slideshow.
Dear heart, I can't go to slide heart or to slideshow. It's being blocked. Okay, hang on just a second, y'all, and we will see what happens with this. Ooh. Okay. Now I can do it. Now I can do it. So for those who come after me, here we go. All righty. So these are my Zoom haikus. And yes, haikus don't have titles, but mine do. So, Zoom, how do I love thee? You're what connects me to life in all its weirdness. The New York World's Fair prediction. In 1964, you see, picture phone chat time. 1964's vision finally comes true. Whoops, let's do that. Busted. Grand mansion backdrops, disguising our cluttered views. Till family strolls through. Camera angles. Look up my nose, dear. Lady of the ceiling fans. In your personal space. Lighting bugs. Too light or too dark? I welcome sun to my cave, squint and greet the glare. Notes, using notes. Don't mind my reading. I'll just set my notes down here, or maybe up here.
Oh my, yeah, it's hard when you're trying to make eye contact, but something's in the way.
It's the microphone icon, lower left, lower left. Phone rings while zooming. God made mute for a reason. Thanks for clicking shush. How's that for a view? I see you smiling, almost like Mona Lisa. Wait, that's your screenshot. Oops. Oh yes. Let us know when you're paying attention. So where should I look when I'm speaking to others? Eye contact Post-its. Which, by the way, are right by my camera at the top of my screen.
All right.
Creating other platforms. Mom said sit up straight. With stacks of books and boxes, you'll rock your best self. And yes, if your camera is just slightly above eye level, your lighting is good. It's all good. So, and there is the literary pup.
There he is.
Who is in on all the Zoom meetings, whether you can see him or not.
That was good, Anita. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was pretty creative.
Now I have to get myself off of, well, I think. All righty. Mike, you need to, I thought I was clicking where I need to stop being the host. Oh no, I make you the host.
You make me the host.
I make you the host. I don't stop me being the host. Okay, cool. There we go.
Does that mean we have multi-hosts?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I'm
right.
going to make Anne our spotlight person. Anne, you are up. But we're not hearing you, Anne.
Okay, Ann, you ready?
We're still not hearing you.
Did you unmute yourself? Ann Miner is not muted very often.
Do you want to come back to Anne?
It's up to you. Is that going to be the best way to go? We can always come back to her if that's what you want to do. But that
Yeah.
would put you up.
Yeah, that puts me up. Okay. Okay, so hopefully Anne can work on her difficulties, and maybe she can be next. Okay, I am going to share my screen and also do a PowerPoint very quickly. I didn't know exactly what to do with an open mic, so so I put this together hopefully to give some clarity, I hope. These are my writing projects. My biggest project is my series called Godsend. It's a series, right now there are 3 books on Amazon, and I'm almost to the point where I can put the 4th book on. I'm still working on the cover and all those last details that we all know about. This is a series, it's written, it's about a group of teenagers who are called by God to fight demons. There's a lot of action, a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, and it's been a lot of fun doing it. Along with this, I'm working with my editing group, my critique group, and I'm working on a book I wrote a long time ago, actually bringing it up to date, called Inca. And it's a very exciting project to me. We're about halfway done with this book. Along with this, I'm writing a nonfiction book on the 7 stages of the image of God, something I'm passionate about. And then I'm starting a new book called Nephilim. It's just it's in my head at this point. So these are some of the projects that I'm working on, as well as doing some of the short stories for the club, which I credit Dwight. I've not written a lot of short stories in my life, so I'm seeing the value in doing that. So to keep my minutes short as much as I can, I'm going to read the first section of the first Godsend book, just to give you a little taste of what it's like. So the book begins, Chapter 1, Thursday. A thick, pasty gloom surrounded Alex like a moldy shroud. The stifling, stale air vibrated with a cacophony of wild, discordant noise. Alex tightened his grip on the hilt of the heavy, glowing sword. Knowing what was about to descend upon him, he warily scanned the horizon and braced himself. He'd been here a dozen times before, and each time was more terrifying than the last. Fountains of lava broke through the ground's dark crust. Molten rock cast an eerie red glow, revealing the vastness of the cavern. Alex looked down at the short rock pedestal he stood on. The top was just bigger than his tennis shoes. Then they came. Not hundreds or even thousands, but an endless sea of creatures poured down the rocky, blood-stained hills on all sides of him. Obscured by a sulfuric yellow fog, the monsters were still too far away to be seen clearly. Their mind-numbing cries pounded his ears. They screamed, not in pain nor in anger. They screamed in hunger. Their ear-splitting shrieks grew louder. It was more than he could stand. Alex's hand went limp, and his sword clanked on the hard, cracked ground. He covered his ears as the rabid creatures came closer. Now Alex could make them out. Like wolves, the pale gray, leathery-skinned demons sprang forward on long, curved, razor-sharp claws. Rows of spiked, needle-like teeth flashed as they screeched triumphantly. Alex stood on a stone plate. He was the meal. As they reached him, he closed his eyes. And that's how the book starts.
Woo.
So that is my time, and I appreciate this opportunity. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Oh my, no, that was great, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. That's a pretty thick book, man.
They take a while to write.
Yes, they do.
They do. This one is first one is over 325 pages. So yeah, it's a effort of love. It really is.
Well, that's great. That's great. Is Anne available yet?
Ann, wait, she's showing us a sign. You have to pull it back, Ann. We can't see it.
Sign language.
It says host is not allowing to unmute. Okay, well, let me see what's going on here. In mine, you're not muted. I don't know what's going on. Maybe, Anita, do you have any wisdom on this? Because it says that you're unmuted right now, but you're not. Anita, any ideas?
I would try also looking at your options in participant view, where you have the column on the right, Mike, and see if there's additional things there.
I've got it, but even there, Ann is not muted.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of, Ann, is something went wrong with your connection. Maybe if you left the meeting and came back, go ahead and try that.
Sometimes she can unmute herself.
Try this. Push your space bar down. And then talk. Okay, no, we're still not getting anything.
If she clicks the microphone in her bottom left corner or the three dots in the top right corner?
No, nothing's working. So go ahead and leave the meeting and come back and we'll see if that fixes it.
Okay, why don't we go on to the next reader and we can, we'll check in periodically.
Sounds good. We'll get her in here one way or the other.
And so our next reader on the list is Jenny Margotta. Jenny, you ready?
I am.
Good. All right.
This is my nod towards July, which is kind of a patriotic month for everybody. It is also a piece that I wrote that I dedicated to my father. Those of you who know about me know I seldom say anything positive about him, but he served aboard a destroyer in World War II for just a single ship for the entire war. So this was my nod to his military service. It's called The Nearly Forgotten. This is a story of a little ship that doesn't have the notoriety of the infamous aircraft carriers Enterprise, Yorktown, or Hornet. She did not earn the immortality of the battleships Arizona or Missouri, or even the fabled PT-109. This is the story of one of thousands of now nearly forgotten ships that were the backbone of the U.S. Navy during World War II. It is the story of the USS Coghlan, DD-606. USS Coghlan was one of 30 Benson-class destroyers built between 1938 and 1942. Commissioned in February 1942, she was the 19th Benson-class destroyer built. She was only 341 feet long and a mere 36 feet wide at her broadest point, yet carried a crew of 276 men. Her armament consisted of 5 127 millimeter guns, twin 50 millimeter cannons, multiple half-inch guns, torpedoes, and depth charges. She was small, but she was fast and very fierce. Coghlan is seldom mentioned in history books other than her somewhat exciting role during the fighting on and around the Aleutian Islands, but the progression of the war across the vast Pacific Ocean can almost be plotted by her movements. According to the Dictionary of American Naval Fighting Ships, Coghlan was an active participant in the Aleutian Campaign from October 1942 through June 1943. She participated in the U.S. Army landings on Amchatka and was involved in the sinking of a Japanese merchant ship during the bombardment of Chicago Harbor. Coghlan was a part of the naval force that preyed upon Japanese shipping and prevented the reinforcement of and later caused the Japanese retreat from Attu Island. Finally, she was part of the support group that protected the U.S. military landings in the Aleutians in May and June of 1943. After overhaul in San Francisco, Coghlan was assigned to the task force supporting the raids on Baker and Tarawa Islands and the attack on Wake Island, as well as the assault on the Gilberts. She was part of the carrier screens giving air coverage during the landings in the Marshalls, escorted shipping to Majuro, then moved on to Eniwetok to join the flotilla bound for the invasions of Saipan and Tinian. After that, the valiant little ship sailed for the Philippines, where she fought in the battles of Leyte Gulf, Ormoc Bay, where she came under heavy kamikaze attack, and Lingayen Gulf. Coughlin's last battle action was the Battle of Okinawa, after which she carried passengers, mail, and freight between Okinawa and the Japanese home islands during the occupation of Japan. She was decommissioned in Charleston, South Carolina in March 1947. It doesn't sound like much when 5 years of hard service are reduced to these few paragraphs, but she did in fact earn 8 battle stars. This ship and her crew fought valiantly in the Pacific until the last day of the war and continued to provide valuable service even after the fighting stopped. The men assigned to her crew came to know her intimately. The stench of diesel from her engines, the strong smells of oil and machinery below decks, mixed with the smell of chow from the galley, the ever-present cigarette smoke, too much salt water and too little fresh, all quite often overlaid with the odor of anticipation and oftentimes fear. Her men are pretty much nameless to us now after more than 70 years. None of them earned a Medal of Honor or became President of the United States. The History Channel hasn't filmed a special series about her, and few know her name who aren't ardent World War II history enthusiasts or family members of her crew. There were literally thousands of ships that fought valiantly in both the European and Pacific theaters, and like the Coughlin, were discarded, destroyed, and forgotten in the war's aftermath. But she should be remembered, if only as the representative of all the nameless ships and their brave crews. For every John F. Kennedy or USS Enterprise, for every hero or famous ship deified in the history books, the world should remember the countless little ships that provided support and cover and backup. One ship or one man alone could not have won the war. A multitude of valiant ships and a generation of brave men could and did.
Oh, very nice. Thank you, Jane.
No, really good.
I'm back.
Oh, excellent.
I had to.
That was a very, I like the thought behind that, because you took a ship that would never be named probably in a story, and the whole idea of naming others that were like it, and that was the contributing factor in winning the war. That was very thoughtful. I appreciate that.
You know, everybody remembers the aircraft carriers, but what they don't realize is that there are sometimes as many as 100 ships surrounding a carrier in rings that protected it from attack, from assault, from exposure. So yeah, the little guys get forgotten.
Yeah, well, you brought him back to memory. Thank you.
Jenny, you always write so thoughtfully. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Anne.
So Anne, I see that you're unmuted now. It's not often that you are muted.
You need to be nice. You need to be nicer. I'm going to call you out on some other stuff.
Okay,
We're never at a loss for words, you know.
the floor is yours.
Well, I just had to turn the computer off completely and start over again.
Okay, welcome back.
Okay. So I've just published this little book. It's a memoir that I worked on for about 30, I think I figured 39 years when I first got the idea in 1981, and off and on. And then the critique group really helped me out a few years ago, and then I stopped again. So when I finished it, I cried. Well, maybe you'll cry when you hear it, I don't know. But it's called A Childhood Remembered. And this smiley face is what I use to sign everything. It's a condolence for, I don't know, when I started 35 or 40 years ago. So it seemed appropriate to put that on there. This is, I'm going to read the synopsis so you get an idea of what the book is about. Neglected and abandoned at 1 year, she didn't sit up or even crawl. Adopted with her twin sister by loving parents, she grew strong quickly and had a rich young life. After her daddy died and her mother remarried, she was adopted again. How did she cope with a new father, a new last name, moving from a small town to a big city, 3 new homes and 2 new schools, all in the same year? What happened when her birth mother knocked on her door that Saturday morning? So that's supposed to get your interest. And it's just filled with a lot of stories about my childhood. And since they're all so perfectly wonderful and wonderfully written, it was very difficult to try to find the right one to read. This particular chapter is called The Lake. And it's about a place where we spent so many summers and weekends growing up in Oklahoma, a little outside our little town. Our rich and carefree lives were enhanced by times at the lake. At the lake, we learned much about the outdoors. Daddy taught us to hunt and fish and clean the catch, to sit quietly in a duck blind at daybreak, to stand motionless in the forest at the sight of a deer, and to watch out for snakes. I have fond memories of rowing out on the lake at night with him, enormous flashlight in hand, looking for frogs to gig. He often got out of the boat to get closer to the bank. As we searched, venomous water moccasins rolled in the dark waters. When we had enough frogs, we returned to the cabin on the hill, cleaned the little critters, and fried up those frog legs for a late dinner. Later, we kids lay in our cots on the screened-in porch on a summer night. We could hear the loud croaking of the frogs down in the rushes. Daddy sat on our beds and told us stories about an old bullfrog whose daughter was getting married. We dozed off, listening to the song of the wind, singing through the screens, and dreaming of the frog's wedding. My parents and their friends frequently took the rowboat out to spend hours fishing in the deeper waters in the middle of the lake. Catfish and bass lived deep down, and they regularly came home with large fish, some 3 feet long. We girls and the children of other adults were left under the watchful eye of the lake's caretaker couple who lived up behind the main cabin. An immense bell hung outside their front door. If there were a phone call or some sort of emergency while the fishermen were out on the lake, the caretaker would ring that bell and the anglers would know, come in. On one of those days, we children, there were several of us, were ringing the bell just for fun, which we had been warned not to do. The grown-ups on the lake heard the bell and debated whether we were just playing around or if there might be a serious emergency. Not willing to take a chance, they reluctantly struck up the outboard motor and headed in from the other side of the lake. They reached the dock and hiked up the hill, fishing poles in hand, with a plan to reprimand us if we had sounded a false alarm. "Where's the car?" they asked as they approached. "What do you mean?" That's when we realized that our car had disappeared from the front of the cabin. As our eyes followed the tire tracks through the grass down the hill to the lake, we spied the shiny top of our burgundy Chrysler peeking out of the water. We never knew what made the car roll down that hill, but the folks always parked behind the cabin.
All right.
A glimpse of my childhood.
That's a good glimpse.
My sister and I were about a year old, and we were basically abandoned. And we had dresses that were just sewn onto us in lieu of buttons. We had to be, and we didn't sit up or even crawl. But within 3 months, we were walking after we got adopted. And,
Wow.
Yeah, so the story was with the focus on the adoption and a happy childhood, and then the birth parent finding me and so forth. So it was I cried many times while I was writing this. So,
I'll bet.
yeah.
Was it a big benefit, would you say, that you had each other under those circumstances, especially? No?
No, we were never close. We aren't close now. I've gone for at least 20 years and more than once I didn't know where my sister was. We just don't have that much in common, although I did call her several times during the writing of this to ask about what she remembered about certain things. And she didn't remember some of it at all. And she told me some things I didn't remember at all. And my uncle Gordon had a joke that we always asked him to tell, and I couldn't remember the punchline. And we'd say, "Tell us the one about the turtles." And it was 3 turtles named Shadrach, Meshach, and George. And I could only remember the beginning of it, and I thought surely she would remember the end. And she remembered the story, but not how it ended. And it was just a shaggy dog story anyway. But that was fun to talk to her about some of those things. And I think we got closer in the last few months while I was calling her and asking her questions about this. But I had to be, there were many times I didn't remember that she was there when on the incidents that I wrote about. And I just finally had to tell her, I have to tell the story the way I remember it. And she said, that's okay. It's your story.
Mm.
So that's, yeah. But we've never been close. And I don't know that we were close as little guys. She used to torture me, pinch me, and I never said it. I probably deserved it, but
Jenny, you look like you're popping at the gills here. Did you want to say something? Jenny, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
she's probably muted.
I don't know. It's
She's
Hey,
not muted now. Go
now
ahead.
he unmuted me. No, I was just agreeing with Ann. When I wrote The Woman in Room 23, a lot of it is remembrances. And my brother and sister both have said, Janice, that's not the way that story happened.
No.
And I'm going, well, it's the way I remember it.
Right.
And we're not close either. I left home when I was 13, so we haven't been a family since I was 13. And it's the same kind of thing. As I was writing the book and as my mother got more and more ill, we pulled together. Now we're kind of drifted back apart again. But it's exactly Ann's story. It's, the other people, they either don't remember it or they remember it totally different. And you just have to finally say, look, I'm writing the book. I'm going to write it the way I remember it.
Got to do it that way, yeah.
You do.
you do. That's it.
Well, I'm starting the next round. People have called and said, I've actually sold 50 of these books in the last month. And thank God to Facebook. And I have more orders coming, but I'm out of books. So the next thing I'm writing is people said, we want to hear more of your story. So I'm starting that. I've got it outlined, but it's going to be much more daunting because I had a lot of trauma that I don't want to share because it wouldn't be fair to the people that are still alive. So I'm going to focus mostly on the positive stuff. And but I'm excited that this is my 5th book to publish. And it's the first time I felt like a writer. And now I'm stimulated to write some more. So it's a good thing.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
I loved your little pieces in the last anthology, so I want to read this one. Let me know if you get more copies.
Well, thank you very much. When I will order enough so that you can have one of the next round. And let me just get it. I had it right here. Oh, here it is. Okay. I have pictures in there. I'm so vain about all this, so forgive me, but I have pictures in the book. They're interspersed. And this is one of them. And this is my sister and me when we were first adopted. And we were on I think,
Aww.
and we had very curly hair. And so mother groomed us for 10 years with our curls. And then at the age of about 10, this is me. This is our last haircut before we got our last picture before we got a haircut. And she actually, I look taller there, but I'm sitting on a taller man. She actually became 4 inches taller than I, and we never did look alike after we were little guys. So anyhow, I will leave the stage now. I'm reluctant to go. But it's so parting is such sweet sorrow.
Everybody mute Ann.
Thank you, guys. Shut up, Dwight. Shut up.
All right. Lorelei, I saw you earlier. Are you still here?
She's still here, and I'm unmuting her.
Oh, good. Good. Lorelei, you there?
Lorelei, look at your bottom left-hand part of your screen. Oh, there, you're good. You're good. You're unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
You are unmuted.
Okay.
And you're in the spotlight.
Okay.
You're up.
Well, I am very fortunate to be in the Poemsmiths hosted by Mary Thompson, and of course now also by Anita Holmes, since we're Zooming. And I wrote this poem for in that group. And it's an acrostic poem because it's about a painting, and it's also a narrative poem because it's a narrative. And the title of it is Straightening Flower Fields. I'm sure Gustav Klimt never meant for the couple in his masterpiece to kiss. to be lying down. The painting, which has inspired millions of replicas of posters, pendants, pillows, phone covers, postcards, puzzles, even masks in the present pandemic, shows the famous pair in a passionate embrace in a compact kneeling pose. But in the assisted living facility where we visited my husband's mother to arrange her hospice care, right there in the hallway leading to her room, the iconic couple was in prone position. Someone had hung the picture sideways. And they weren't the only ones with their frame out of kilter that day. His mom was also prone, completely bedridden. That was flagrantly wrong, too. Instead of her being able to happily chop onions, blend spices, or stir batter in her own well-stocked kitchen, cooking had always been her lifetime passion. Now, styrofoam containers of food appeared in her room. Her box lunch sat by the bed getting cold. So I tried feeding her, dropping small bits of spaghetti noodles into her waiting mouth, like feeding a baby bird. After a few bites, protests of, "I'm not hungry," halted further progress. When I asked if the sauce tasted good, like the flour-laden female in The Kiss, her expression said it all, except it wasn't pleasure. Before we left, my husband helped me straighten Klimt's world-renowned painting. After all, generations of art critics, students, and lovers have admired the gold-bedecked duo kneeling in a glorious field amidst a riotous explosion of color. As we drove home, however, thoughts of the anonymous picture hanger lingered. Could his impression been correct all along? Maybe Mom's upright season was ending and her time was approaching to lie in a fragrant field of flowers. And if whatever lies ahead is anything like the blossoming haven of bliss Klimt created, who was I to try to straighten it?
I think that was awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. Is everybody else unmuted now, Mike?
Not everybody.
Okay. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, please unmute yourself and have at it. Can you hear me, Lorelei?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me say, I want to say one thing that was very noticeable to me is your presentation was so dramatic and so beautiful. I mean, you lived up to the writing just by your presentation. And I thought that was very, very good. It added
Thank
a
you.
lot to it, I thought.
Oh, is this a true story or
Oh, yeah.
something? Okay.
Oh yeah, you can't make that up. You
Yeah,
can't make
that's
that
true.
up. We walked down the hall and there was a picture about this size. I didn't realize I have this picture and it was sideways. They had the picture like this,
Uh-huh.
hanging. And I went to the manager and I said, wait a minute, that's not right. You can't do that to Klimt the Kiss.
That's
I
great.
got it straightened out. But afterwards I thought, you know what? There's a poem in this. There's a poem in this.
Yeah, that would be a visual you couldn't ever erase. So you had to
Yeah.
write about it. That's good.
Laura, you look wonderful as usual. You're so photogenic. But I've been wanting to ask you, and forgive this personal question, but did you ever finish the book about your brother?
I've got 2 drafts of it. I need
Okay.
to do another draft.
Okay. I'm anxious to read that.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think I will finish that.
Excellent. Good job.
Okay, Lorelei, thank you very much. Is Diane here? I haven't seen Diane Neil. Is she here?
I don't think she is.
Okay. All right.
So Dwight, that means you're up.
That means I'm up. I wrote just a one-page short story that kind of dictated itself, and it happened a few days before Christmas last year. And I swear almost everything is exactly as stated in the story. The only thing I added was some fog, because the story just called for some fog, okay? All right, so the title is Merry Christmas, Kind Sir. I'm sitting in the back of my house watching a ball game. My team is well ahead and time is running short, but I want to see every play. The time is perhaps 7 p.m., a few days before Christmas. The street is shrouded in fog and darkness envelops the house, save for the several lights inside. Suddenly, the piercing sound of my doorbell. I am immediately riled, first because my ball game is interrupted, secondly because it's dark and I don't like strangers coming to my front door under cover of night. And you know this is an unnecessary intrusion. I will dispatch in a hurry and return to my game. I walk through the house aggressively to see through the front window an adult standing in my driveway holding a flashlight. My chagrin is overwrought. Though the doorbell is at my front door, I never receive guests that way. I walk through the house and raise the garage entrance. I'm walking towards the adult with the light, ready to offer a piece of my mind. Before I can approach, two children around 8, a boy and a girl, step towards me from my left. Both children are well groomed and well dressed. The girl carries something in her hands held out in front. A candle? I don't remember. If so, not lit. The boy carries a cardboard box of generous size, filled with large sprigs of mistletoe, each tied with golden ribbon and a modest red bow. Sir, would you like to buy some mistletoe so we could buy some Christmas presents? My mouth drops. No chocolate, no solar, no magazine subscription, but two respectful youngsters full of goodwill and Christmas cheer, selling mistletoe so they can give to others. You know, I say, I came to the door grumpy, but how could I stay grumpy with you? Let me go inside and find some money. How much is it? $2. I shuffle through my cash, setting aside some singles. Ah, there it is. Returning to the children, I say, I couldn't find $2, but would you accept this 5? With a sweet smile, yes, they say. Handing over the best of their mistletoe. Merry Christmas, kind sir, the boy says. Merry Christmas, I say. Waving adieu and rejoining Mom, into the night they stride.
I love it.
So, yeah, that was it. I couldn't believe it. I thought a story was just performed in front of my very eyes. What could I do but write it down?
Well done.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
You know, we need stories like that nowadays.
Well, yeah, it just kind of presented itself, and I just thought I would have felt kind of silly to just let it slide into the Ethernet and not write it.
Well, we forget that there is some goodwill still out there.
That was so impressive when I realized all the pieces that came together. Well, let's see here. Peg Pawlak, you're here, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
All right, there you are. All right. Are you ready to go?
Hi, Dwight. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say a quick word about your story, Dwight, just because it was personal for me. And that is, I sold mistletoe when I was a child, but it was only 25 cents a pack.
The $2 seemed cheap last year, you know, so it was heartwarming. And yeah, mistletoe is a good thing to sell around Christmas time.
I'm relatively new to the group. I am a poemsmith, and that's how I got into the writing club with Mary Thompson. And so I'm going to share some of my poetry. I've selected 3 pieces. And the first one is called Missing in Laos. So it's a Vietnam story. It's for Tech Sergeant Herbert A. Kirk on the United States Air Force, who was lost on March 11th, 1966. And he was from Pennsylvania. I was the boy who sat on the stoop watching smokestacks shooting gray plumes into the sky. Inside the house, Mama slept. She worked nights. I left home at 18. I was the man who went to war like so many others. A canvas knapsack hung down across my shoulders, weighted awkwardly with ration cans, a special tinned ham, clean socks, and a letter from Mama. I was a soldier with a Bowie knife at my hip. Dark glasses hid the everywhere glare, exploding in the hot, wet, dung-filled air. It was a green maze with fast-moving shadows. Firefighting cracked the crunching cellophane inside my palm against my ear, 24/7. Cobra voices hissed through the fields. Thunder boomed. Monsoon season coming. I tasted my comrades' dust, sweat, and blood. I was the one left behind in a sandbagged shuffle, defending the hole with my M16 and no bullets. A spark hit my eye. Falling, I saw water's underside. A golden carp surfaced, floating sideways, dead. A red moon pierced the sky, and I slipped away forever. The second one I selected is called The Daughter-in-Law, and it's a Bible story about Ruth. This is written for Poemsmiths because Mary is creating a selection of Bible stories that we hope to put in a book. So it's been a pleasure. I've written 2, but I'm just sharing this one. The Daughter-in-Law. A strong woman came ages before the Christian era. Moabitess at birth, poor foreigner in Judah, gleaner of barley and wheat, faithful to the Israelites' God, comfort for old widow Naomi, a dutiful, devoted daughter-in-law. Likewise a widow, Ruth vowed, I will go where you go, your people will be my people, your God will be my God, not even death will separate you from me. She gleaned favorably in the fields of Lord Boaz. He, a kinsman redeemer, claimed her as his wife. Blessed among women, she bore a son, great-grandmother to a mighty king. And the last one is called September Dawn. On a nearby chimney edge, one silent crow stoops. Spying down through the early haze, he waits. I wait too. In the rafters above my head, restless pigeons scuffle and coo as the sun breaks through, filtering gleams of light across my porch. I follow the sunbeams as they slip closer, and another leaf crackles as it lands on the pavement. Along the curbs, chirping sparrows hop. Flitting to and fro through the treetops, they chase one another like kamikaze pilots. The neighborhood cat sits patiently in the grass. Her tail swings like a clock's pendulum, swaying back and forth. I pick up the cat's rhythm for a while. I am patient too. I hear the morning train as it moves closer. I catch a glimpse of a mockingbird, quick touching on the wires that string the avenue. My chair vibrates as the train whistles by. A gentle breeze eases through the trees. Wind chimes hanging on an old rusty nail clang. The sun's heat, now warm on my arm, moves up, touching my face. I close my eyes. The back of my eyes fill up in shades of yellow reds, and I whisper, thank you for this place and time.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Very nice.
Thank you, guys.
Very nice, Peg. Appreciate it.
Lots of feeling there. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Enjoyed those. Yay, Poemsmiths!
Yay!
And speaking of poemsmiths, Miss Poemsmith herself, Mary Langer Thompson, is up next. When we have someone of her stature in the club, sometimes it's easy to forget that. And
No, it isn't.
Mary is a poet laureate and a doctor of education from UCLA, and it just goes on and on. She's had such a great influence on so many members, and Poemsmiths is probably one of the strongest critique groups that we have, and a lot of it is thanks to Mary. So, and then I remember back in the day when we had probably a very large critique group. There were like 10 or 12 of us in there.
Yeah.
And if you've been in critique groups and you realize the number, the first thing you're thinking of, boy, that's a lot of reading, because you had to read everybody else's piece, you know. But it was very well done. It was a very interesting group. And I enjoyed it because you'd go around that large table and everybody was seeing something that the others did not see. And that was the value of it. So thanks for hosting something like that. And thanks for all your work with the Poemsmiths, Mary. So you're up. You have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you
Thanks
for
thanks for all that you do. And I'll shut up. Sorry.
thank you for all the compliments. I love the Poemsmiths, and I rarely send anything in that hasn't been through the Poemsmiths. So they give as much to me as I give back to them. So I count on them a lot. So
Yeah.
this first poem, I have two poems to read, and this 2020 is the year of women getting the vote, 100% centennial celebration.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, they're going to celebrate it for one more year. And the national parks have a mascot called Saxon. It's a cat. And the women in both Britain and America were given such a rough time in propaganda ads. They were force-fed, and some of them died. And if you read about the women's movement, it really is not like we were taught in history. But this poem is called I Vote for Saxon. Not the Anglos, of course, who suggested suffragettes were catty, so demeaned both women and kitties, insinuating my sisters were all crazy cat ladies. Not the Anglos, of course, who were propagandists who dressed felines in hats and shawls and let them wear the pants to show how silly we all were. Not the Anglos, of course, who force-fed women on hunger strikes, holding them down while inserting tubes previously done to only the insane. Not the Anglos, of course, who feared we were tomcats who would steal their jobs and keep them home doing laundry, but Saxon, black kitty from Alabama, who turned the tables on those Anglos and got adopted by 2 suffragists who traveled the USA with them. You don't want to close them in, neither cats nor women. So I vote for Saxon, the cat who persisted.
Very good.
Thank you.
Interesting. Did not know all that.
A lot
Yeah.
of history.
Read up on them, and there's a lot of PBS programs on this year talking about the women's movement and Woodrow Wilson's part in that, and how they wrote him letters to convince him that they should get the vote. And very interesting, and a lot of it is parallel with some of the protests going on right now. So I got a last minute prop because a lot of you had props. And this is the only teddy bear I have. And this next poem is called Lament of the Teddy Bears. And it's in honor of Teddy Roosevelt, whose statue, of course, they wanted to destroy, and I believe they did. And I think most of you know, if you're of a certain age at least, the teddy bear was created in honor of Teddy Roosevelt. And so this poem is called Lament of the Teddy Bears. What's next? Kids pulling us apart? They used to take Pookie, Paddington, and Pooh to bed with them, hugged against their soft bodies. Roosevelt hunted us when we were real, to no avail. His assistant cornered one and tied it to a willow tree. Teddy took compassion and laid his rifle down. So, to the masses from the mass-produced, pull down the statues he never wanted, but please, conserve us like he did, because we are innocent.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Very nice. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Mary,
Well,
I've just,
yeah,
I
go
want, something that I was trying to, my grandfather, I was just trying to figure out, I think he was born in 1858 and he died in 1946. And he had, every dog he had, he named Teddy after Teddy Roosevelt.
Neat.
Very good. Well, we have some time for announcing projects that we're currently working.
Wait, we have one more. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Dwight, we have one more reader.
Michael Raff, yes. I was looking at his name as my mouth went off on automatic pilot saying. So, Michael, you ready? Mike, can you hear me?
Oh, no, we have no video, no audio.
Oh, we got a video, but we don't have audio for him.
Let me see. Now, see, it's the same thing. Mine is saying that we do have audio.
No, this one says we don't. No.
Wow. He's trying to
Yeah.
see if he
Trying
can
to
be
fix it.
heard.
No. I turned
Mike?
my computer all the way off and then back again, so maybe that'll help him.
Yeah, Mike, you may have to go out and come back in. Well, I really hate that this has happened to him.
Oh, Barb Schneer is here. Okay, good. Yeah, she says also to go out and come back in.
So yeah, I think Mike did go out. So if you want to find out what everybody's up to, and then when he
Okay.
comes back,
Let's hear from everybody on any projects that you have going on, you're working on right now. We'll get back to Mike as soon as we can.
Yeah, Mike, I'm not sure what's going on, but every time I tried to unmute myself through this whole thing, it kept saying, like Ann said, system administrator won't allow to unmute. And then I just now got the message from you that says system administrator would like you to unmute, and then it allowed me to come back in. So that's what's going on my end as far as the muting is concerned.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. But I've unmuted everybody, so we all should be unmuted now.
Except Bob Isbell's muted.
Yeah.
Hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie.
Hi. Hi.
I'm muted.
Nice to see you, girl, Miss Texas.
Oh, yeah. Hot Texas today.
Yeah. Hot and humid. Yeah.
Oh,
I grew
yeah.
up in that. And we didn't have any air conditioning in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, well, you just, it's all we knew. So
That's true. We used fans way back when.
that's right.
Don't know what we'd do now without AC.
No kidding.
Dwight?
Yeah.
I've got a comment for Jenny.
Go ahead.
Can I go ahead and interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
My dad was sunk in World War II on the USS Pecos. And he went in the water, something like 1,000 men went in, 232 came out. He met with my Uncle Frank, and they went to Philadelphia, and that's where they met Mom. And then I worked in Japan in 1980, and I met a pilot, a Japanese pilot, that was dropping bombs and shooting at my dad, which was pretty ironic. I
Wow.
told him if he was a better shot, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Thankfully, he wasn't.
Yeah.
My
Yeah, but
dad
nobody's
served
ever heard of the Pecos.
My dad served as a machinist mate and then as a fireman on the destroyer, so he was always down below decks. And he would never talk to anybody. He always said, it's not something you talk about with women. So every time I would ask him a question, he would just pass it off and not say anything. The only thing I do know is he did say to my mom that in hindsight, he wished he could have had a job up on deck, because he said he thought it was scarier not knowing what was coming. Because down below, of course, you're blind. You have no idea what's coming at you. So that's where the fear part came in when I wrote the thing, is because he said he thought that was worse, not knowing that it was coming than being on deck. So.
Well, Dad's 98 now, and he's a carpenter. He was a carpenter's mate, and he had the same thing. They blew a ship floor. You had to go fix it. That was his job.
Wow. Mike, are we still unable to hear from you?
I'm trying to get a hold of Mike. He's not back yet, so we can find out what other people are working on if you want.
Yeah.
Dwight?
Yeah.
My mother, June Langer, who couldn't come today, has been published in The View, which is the Sun City magazine. So she just turned 97 this summer, and she couldn't be here only because she has trouble hearing. And she's painting and writing constantly.
Oh, wonderful.
Question.
Yeah, that's great.
And she wants to say hi to Barbara. Hi, Barbara.
Yes, tell her hi.
And also the other wise woman, Amy, I see is here. So she says hi to everyone.
Nice.
Very good. Who else is working on something that we would like to know about?
Let's hear from Henrietta. We haven't heard her say anything for this whole
Where's
meeting.
Henrietta?
Oh, yes. I haven't written in about 4 months. I did start writing on a story, and I have a few pages done. And I don't know, like I got writer's block or something, and I just couldn't think of anything else to do. But since coming here, sitting with your writers today, look like your vibes vibrated or something. So as you've been talking, I've been writing down different ways I can go with the rest of my story. I like.
Well, that's awesome.
And so,
That's
so
awesome.
I was writing down different little things. So I'm motivated again to write, just as a result of coming here. And I didn't take any of your ideas or anything. It's just that things began to flow in my head and in my imagination when you guys came up and started talking.
Well, that's wonderful. You've inspired us too.
Then we've done our job.
Yes.
Go ahead, and I want to make my closing remarks, but I'm holding time open for Mike Raff if he's able
I'm
to.
here.
Oh, you're good.
Hey,
The story, Xander's Box poses the question, can a dysfunctional sufferer from agoraphobia, who's an ex-con, ex-drug addict, janitor, save the world from a pandemic? And I'm going to go ahead and read a little excerpt. But to answer that question, I guess we're just going to have to buy our anthology from the club, huh, Jenny? So, a little sample of what to come. Xander's Box, Chicago, April 16th, 2024. John Xander jumped off his recliner, still hearing Jim's desperate voice. Shuddering, he understood. It wasn't a nightmare, but their psychic connection. Still powerful after all these years. He knew what to do: pack, get out of the house, and risk his life finding his twin brother. Clancy, John's Labrador, sat on the couch, his eyes apprehensive, his head drooping. Don't worry, boy, our neighbors will spoil you rotten. Then he told his elderly dog a lie. I'll be back before you know it. John battled barrages of terror as he stepped into the garage. Jim, you have no idea what you're asking, he murmured to his brother, 700 miles away in DC. Tossing his suitcase into the Camry's trunk, he wiped the sweat from his face. Agoraphobia, stuff of tears, agony, and night terrors. He sighed and shook his head. Let the games begin. Opening the garage door with his remote, John climbed into his car and turned over the engine. With a grueling 11-hour drive before him, his Toyota sounded as if it had been sitting idle for months. His agoraphobia suddenly kicked in, freezing his foot on the brake. Going nowhere fast wasn't an option. Insights from his former psychiatrist, Dr. Simon Clark, flashed through his mind. You can't give in. Use your relaxation techniques, John. Desensitize. Closing his eyes, John filled his lungs, held his breath, then exhaled through his mouth. Once, twice, 3 times. Relief radiated from his body and mind. He had broken out of the box. His agoraphobia had been contained for now. He jammed the car in reverse and backed out. John savored a final look at his modest 3-bedroom home, certain he would never see it or Clancy again. Whatever you're getting me into, Jim, I don't think I can handle it. I think that's all for today. I was going to read more, but we're going too long. So thank you for your attention. Mike?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Dwight to unmute.
Oh,
Ta-da, is that better?
That's better. There you go.
It's amazing how you can think like you're talking to everybody and nobody can even hear you. So I just want to make some closing remarks. It'll take like 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm talking about this writer, William Zinsser. If you're a writing student, you have to know about him. He lived in 92 and he wrote, I think, all of his adult life. He was an editor, a writer, a teacher, a film critic, an editorial writer. He wrote 17 books, and his best known book is the one I'm holding in my hand here, which you can't see, I don't think, but it's called On Writing Well. He had a lot to say about on writing well. And so I want to read just for probably about a minute, 2 very small paragraphs on the subject of simplicity. He says, the secret of good writing is to strip every sentence to its cleanest components. Every word that serves no function, every long word that could be a short word, every adverb that carries the same meaning that is already in the verb, every passive construction that leaves the reader unsure of who is doing what. There are the 1,001, or these are the 1,001 adulterants that weaken the strength of a sentence. And they usually occur in proportion to education and rank. The last paragraph of this chapter, writing is hard work. A clear sentence is no accident. Very few sentences come out right the first time, or even the third time. Remember this in moments of despair. If you find that writing is hard, it's because it is hard. Oh, there's a man with a way with words. So keep it simple, folks, but keep on writing, and we'll see you next time.